Hi, and welcome to the Food Comes First series, where together we'll explore simple steps to boost energy, save time, and nourish your family. I'm Shandi Borup, and I'm your host, and get ready for a really super fun next 20 or so minutes with our special guest today. This is Maru Davila, and welcome to the show, Maru.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited.
Well, I am so excited for our listeners to hear about the amazing work that you do. And let me tell you a little bit about Maru before we get started. So Maru is a celebrity health nutrition coach. She's a chef, international best-selling author, and she's a former competitive triathlete and marathon runner. She's a frequent guest on TV shows and a writer. And she speaks on various topics such as weight loss, healthy eating, detoxing, wellness, high performance, and empowerment topics. And Maru has an amazing story, and I want to let her share this with you all. So Maru, can you tell us a little bit about your history? I know you were born in Mexico City. You came to the U.S. to get your MBA at Harvard Business School, and then you went on to work in corporate America. And kind of take us from there. What happened in your life, and what led you to do what you do today?
So yes, as you well mentioned, I was born and raised in Mexico City, and where I was a very high-performing, very driven young girl, and then obviously young women going rapidly up the corporate ladder. But then obviously what I didn't have was a good knowledge of what I needed to do to take care of my health and how important health and well-being were if I wanted to continue up the ladder. And so I just kept doing what I knew, which was, you work hard, you don't sleep, you eat what you can, and whatever you can, you just push hard. You deal with your stress by ignoring it, and and you just stay up as long as you can. And when you can, then you just drink more coffee, or I don't know if Red Bull was existing at the time, but whatever it was,
right.
Diet Coke, because I've always been concerned about my weight. I did struggle for 30 years, so it was always like something diet related.
Right.
But then I would say that as I did that and then didn't nourish myself with the right things, because what happened was I was so concerned with weight and no really good time to eat throughout the day, that when I ate was when I was starving, and I was so stressed that I couldn't control it. So instead of having, a few decent balanced meals throughout the day that would have taken me no time, as I know today, I would just binge, just completely, my willpower went down, and those strong cravings in the afternoons when we were loaded with work and due dates and this would just kill me. And I would just go and we would buy these huge trays of cookies or brownies, or I don't know, the pint of ice cream, a big pizza, you call it, we did it, right? And so I kept doing that for many years, and I kept performing well according to the world. But looking back, I just started going from, very driven, high-performing person to completely underperforming in over a period of 10 years. And although I did reach Harvard Business School, which was my dream come true, by the time I got there, I was completely depleted. I was depleted internally, emotionally, mentally. And again, I pushed hard and I finished, not at my best. But from then on, I began a very slow but deep decline, where I just started making one bad decision after another. So instead of getting, a good, exciting job after getting an MBA from one of the most prestigious schools, I just did a variety of almost like I was self-sabotaging. I just didn't believe I belonged there. And so I almost went and did the opposite. What could I do? How bad can my relationships get? How bad could I choose my jobs? And all these things that I didn't see at the time. But that kept me going, where I lost a lot of money. I lost all my confidence. I gained a lot of weight. And that didn't stop me. What stopped me was when I started to get really sick. I think that's when many people I see is okay, well, I guess I need to pay attention. And it was 3 years of just getting sick from different things. I had kidney infections. I had chronic sinus infections. I had womenly yeast infections. And then I did have depression for almost 2 decades, but I was, taking care of it with medications and psychologists, psychiatrists, and managing it okay. Right. But at some point it wasn't okay, so that I had to like step back and figure out what's going on, and why do I feel so bad, and why do I look so bad, and maybe I wasn't like horrendously looking, but I felt really bad, and so that's what counted. And I think that's where my journey started. I had to really step back and start from scratch. And that's when I went back to school and learned about nutrition, and how could I use that to really help turn my life around, because nothing was working. I was going to the best doctors and it wasn't working. I mean, none of their medicines worked for more than a few days, a few weeks, and then I would go back to the same thing. So I knew something had to stop.
So you educated yourself, and you took that knowledge and you kind of experimented on yourself, right? To be able to start improving. And I know that you then, you talked about gaining weight. And so, with your weight and health issues, what were the causes that you discovered that were keeping you stuck and sick?
So yeah, I've done a lot of thinking. Again, it wasn't like I knew at the time, okay, these are the things that are keeping me stuck. It took me a while of experimenting and researching and all that, but now I have it very clear. So I think I mentioned those cravings, what I call uncontrollable cravings, because look, I do believe I have a very strong will. And I think most of you listening to us must be very strong will, like I am, and like Shandi. So we all are strong will, but there comes a time where those cravings and those type of foods we're used to eating are stronger than any of our strongest wills, right? I've done marathons, I've done Ironmans, whatever, but that doesn't matter. When we're coming to food will win. And so I had those cravings for sugar and unhealthy carbs because I was addicted to them and I didn't know how to break that addiction. So that's number one. Number two, that I had no clue, or nobody had ever opened my eyes or pointed in that direction, was that I had been accumulating toxins forever. I mean, babies are born with toxins. So I was, at the time when I really hit bottom, was in my early 40s, and I had been accumulating, toxins for almost 40 years. How? Just by living in the world, but also by the big toxic load I was bringing into my life by my own choices, like, all those junk foods and sugars and cakes and ice creams and pizzas that I was doing to supposedly take care of my stress. That right. was bringing a big load that my liver and all my other detox organs couldn't deal with. So they were just accumulating and accumulating. Then the stress in my life that we all have, I didn't know how to manage it. And it was just also adding more toxins. And so those toxins had been accumulating in my brain, in my organs, in my joints, in my fat cells, and they were keeping me stuck. I mean, there was going to be nothing I could do. I could do 5 Ironmans in a row, and I was not going to be able to lose that weight until I figure out or had some help in getting those toxins out of my body. And so I would say that's the second thing that was keeping me stuck. And I had never heard the word, detox, or I thought probably detox was something that you do in hospitals and only if you're right. But I just didn't know that detox is just our body's natural way of cleaning up everything it doesn't need, that doesn't serve it. And there's things we can do to reduce those toxins by not bringing that many as fast, and also things we can do to support our body so that it can eliminate them faster. And exactly. I think the third thing I would point out was I didn't know this either. It wasn't in my vocabulary or in my universe. I didn't know I was probably born or at some point became sensitive to certain healthy considered foods, right? So everybody's sort of like not good with sugar, right? We don't have to question that. But there's certain questions as to whether some people are good or not with things like dairy, which in my world, it was like the one thing that helps you grow. And at the time I was a mom, I mean, I could not imagine not giving my daughter milk, because what was she going to do, right? And so I didn't know I personally had a problem with milk, and my daughter too, right? But I didn't know then either. And then I had a problem with other things like wheat, gluten. That's something that also right now is becoming more common, but it wasn't something I had ever heard, or I wasn't like I didn't believe it. I just didn't even know. And so once I heard a little about it, I did get tested, and I got tested, reacting to certain foods. And when you react to those foods, it not only creates a chronic state of inflammation that can lead to disease, but it also, leads to, weight gain and a lot of the symptoms I was having. So for example, a quick thing, those sinus infections or vaginal infections that were treated by my doctors with antibiotics, they were actually more a reflection of the food sensitivities I had, because when I stopped taking certain foods, I no longer had any infections whatsoever and no need for medicines for the last, I think, like almost 4 or 5 years.
That's awesome. And, that's another thing we've been talking a lot about on this series is that we are all individuals. And so we have to figure out what works best for our own bodies. And so, by you figuring that out, I mean, that probably unleashed a whole new, a type of energy for your life, right? after you,
yes.
Eliminated those foods. And so can you share a little bit further about how you continue to turn things around for your own health?
Well, I guess once I took out the things that were like keeping me stuck, then I really focused on the things that could like make me thrive, right? Which food comes first. This is the title of your series. And I strongly believe that nothing comes. I thought, work and willpower and drive comes first. And I realized that if you don't have the right food, which is, nutrient dense and also individualized or customized to each particular person, then you will have nothing. Eventually, you may think you have something, but to be honest, all those years that I told you I was declining, I didn't know. I was performing at a good level still, but I was like, this much of what Maru can really do or what Maru could have done. So no need going back and whatever. It's just what can I do now and how can I empower you and each one of you to not waste as much time, energy, and just, suffer as much. You just need to know that food comes first and, and food is power. So that's the one thing I've been dedicating my time. I spend a lot of time on my own food and the food of my family, even though at times I have help that can help me. But I feel it's so important that I can delegate almost everything. But that's something that I still plan to become or stay super involved, because that's how I can, what I'm doing. I have a young daughter, 8 years old now, and that's what I can inherit her the best, a bright and thriving future by not only giving her the food. Of course, sometimes I have to fight with her, right? The world is teaching them or exposing them to those sugar addictions, but I can empower her with knowledge and teach her to listen to her body, to listen. For example, my daughter's name is Charlotte. Charlotte, how do you feel right now with what you ate? Or when she eats, like, let's say, I don't like forbid things because I don't want her to develop some sort of like obsession with things. But she does come and tell me now, oh, I just feel lethargic with what I ate. I mean, she was already connecting that. And I think instead of having kids think about food and weight like I did, which didn't work anyway, it's like food and how you feel. That has been the biggest help for me in staying lean, because I'm so attuned with what food can do for me, for good or bad, that I just, at this point, I don't really, it's not like I'm on a diet. I just don't touch foods that destroy me.
That as you told the story about teaching your daughter and asking her those questions, I just got chills all over, because that is what I want people to understand about the rising generation, whether you have children or grandchildren, that we need to empower them. They need to have the knowledge so that they can connect the dots that, yes, when you go to a birthday party and you eat a bunch of sugar, it's fun to go and celebrate with people, and you don't want to restrict them, but you want them to connect the dots on how that type of, what we're calling food, which is really not food, but how that type of those treats truly make you feel. And then they will understand the power of eating the nutrient dense food that you mentioned earlier on. And I just thank you for sharing that. So let's talk about your best-selling book, and how did you come up with the idea of the Mexican food diet?
So I think, remember, as we mentioned, I found those three enemies, the cravings, the toxins, and the third one were the food sensitivities. So I really went out of my way to find, well, I guess I saw that cravings and toxins were sort of like related. So my one goal, working on one step at a time was, okay, let me learn as much as I can with these toxins detox thing.
Right.
And then I found that, I see it as this, if you don't have a clean body and brain, you don't have clean foundations. And imagine if you were going to build a $10 million home, let's say you got the money to build it. Would you build it on a very crappy foundation or lot? Or would you make sure the structure and the base is good so that it can sustain your $10 million investment, right? So that's how I see, our bodies. You got to have some strong, clean foundations so that health and well-being and healthy weight last. And therefore, toxins became my obsession. As I looked into, what foods, again, I believe food comes first. So what foods can help me detoxify faster, right? I know I don't need to eat sugar, and perhaps I need to find out what my food sensitivities were, which I knew. So leaving that out of the way, then what can I do to help my body accelerate, detox? And that came up to a list of certain foods. And then I suddenly clicked. I'm like, oh my God, those foods are like some of the most common ingredients in Mexican food. But at the time, I was not eating Mexican food. As I had the 30 years of weight struggles, I became scared of Mexican food because I thought it would make me more fat. And so I just didn't touch it. But now I'm educated. I'm a little less intimidated by these things. And I'm so willing to experiment that I'm open to new ideas. So I realized, okay, Mexican food, most of it is pretty healthy. There are certain things that you need to leave out, just like in any other types of cuisines.
Right.
But I realized that certain things, for example, let me give you a few things. And if you are familiar with Mexican food, maybe you don't know, but let me tell you, there are always in a lot of recipes. So we have a lot of cilantro, which is an amazing detoxifier.
Yes.
We use a lot of peppers. And again, peppers, when I teach, I teach cooking. I teach people that peppers, you can get the benefits of peppers without the spice. I can do spice, but many people can't, or they don't like it. And you don't have to get the spice. What you do is you take out the seeds and the veins from peppers, and I don't taste anything. And sometimes my daughter eats food with peppers, and that I do like that, and she doesn't even know they're peppers, and she's very sensitive. She would tell me. But that's another big element, that it's not only a detoxifier, but also helps boost your metabolism, which all of us are interested, right? We want to keep our metabolism healthy so we can burn more fat and be more energized. I think
our metabolism, just to comment on that, as we age, our metabolism, automatically slows down. But also, if our toxic load is too great, our metabolism will also be,
it's like a vicious cycle, right? Like one thing it's like, where do you break it? Well, you got to break it and then be patient until the cycle becomes virtual as opposed to distracted. So I think, for example, then I saw we use a lot of lime in our thing. That's also a big detoxifier to get rid of chemicals that can cause cancer. Because one of the things we haven't mentioned is, I think I said toxins were keeping me stuck and were keeping me, of course, overweight and not focused and depressed. But one thing that I didn't mention, and probably is my biggest fear, is toxins are one of the leading causes of cancer and other diseases, like diabetes and every other, the mental, dementia, Alzheimer's. So I'm scared of those. And if there's something I can do to slow them down, prevent them, or reverse them, I will do that. So that's, then Mexican food also uses very highly, anti-inflammatory things. Like we use a lot of onions and garlic, which is also great to fight bacteria and viruses. Yes. And tomatoes, tomatillos, we just have such a variety of fresh foods that when done right can be very powerful. They will help you with the toxins, but also the cravings, because Mexican food is rich and satisfying. And I don't mean the fat, dairy loaded type of thing, but the healthy, whole foods loaded food, that it's very tasty and satisfying. So I strongly believe, I haven't touched on that, but we were talking about treats a few minutes ago. I strongly believe and became committed to finding treats for me first, and obviously then for my family, and third for all of you who either come to my classes or work with me. I don't want you to feel deprived. I don't want you to feel hungry. I starved myself for like 30 years. It's not fun. So I'm not willing to starve myself for one more day. And I'm on a forever mission to keep finding things that are good for me, but that also like make me feel good. So you don't to be honest, if you eat a cake, you feel good for a few minutes. After that, it's gone. You're feeling lethargic, bloated, probably not focused, perhaps a little down. I want something that makes you feel that happiness at that moment and all the while later. And that's what I sort of like eat and what I keep trying to discover for others.
Oh, that's awesome. So, as we wrap this up, what are some of your just final, top smart things that you do for keeping yourself and your family healthy and happy?
I think for all of us, I think if I'm talking to you, Shandi, and you who's listening to us right now, I think I'm talking to me. We're all alike. We're busy, crazy busy, committed to our families, to ourselves. So I think a few things. The first thing I want to say is that I didn't do for many years, but I do now, is take care of you first. Remember when you go in an airplane, they tell you if there's lack of pressure or loss of pressure, you have to put your oxygen mask first on yourself and then on your daughter, right? Or on your child, baby, whatever. And so you got to do that with your health also. So when I was not that healthy mentally or physically, I was not such a great mom. And so I do make sure I put myself first. And then as far as practical things that I do daily to keep us healthy, I try to be prepared. So I think maybe once a week, I think about what I'm going to prepare. That is simple. Maybe one day a week, we do a little more elaborate stuff. But most of the times it's a combination of proteins. What I do for that part is I always have fresh, clean, organic, and depending of the type of animal, pasture raised, right, or whatever it is, in my freezer. I buy them, I have them frozen in individual packs, and then I defrost them the day I'm going to use them. I don't have to be going to the store all the time. I'm always prepared. So I buy maybe a few weeks at a time or like a week at a time. And I rotate them, right? We are able to eat chicken, and we eat maybe once a week some grass-fed beef. We eat a few times a week some low mercury or as low mercury possible fish. So we don't eat, like, for example, tuna more than once a month. And then we eat, some of the people in my family can eat eggs. So we have, the organic free range eggs. And then what else? We eat turkey and whatever you can eat. No, we eat a variety of things. So I'm always prepared for that. I don't have to run to the store or get a prepackaged food, right? I have fresh things I bought from the local farmers market or some online stores that are committed to healthy animals. And then I have other things that I have for protein is I have shakes, plant-based or grass-fed beef shakes that I use sometimes even for my family. I can do a quick shake if we're very, very busy and do with a lot of nutrients and fiber, and we're ready to go, right? Also, when I travel, I eat that. And then we always have veggies. I go every Sunday to the farmer's market. If not, then I buy them online or I go to Vons or whatever my local store is. I buy organic vegetables, and then I have them pre-cut. Not all of them, but I have like at least a few days of pre-cut things. So, for example, I told you as Mexican, knowing how powerful Mexican food is, I got used to cooking a lot with garlic and onions. So I always have them chopped in some tight containers in the refrigerator, so I can always just quickly use that as my base. Then I add some pre-sliced veggies, either directly on sauteing them with olive oil, or I just put them in the oven and roast them. And then I always have green leafy greens that are like washed and ready to go. For example, I love arugula, spinach, romaine, or kale, or whatever. And that's sort of what I'm always prepared. If I want to become a little fancier, I'll do that. But those are the minimums. And then fruit, very fresh fruit that's also pre-cut. So I don't have to. So there's no excuse. Really, like I can come running from a crazy day, everybody ready to have dinner. And in 20 minutes, I can have a very good, fresh, not packaged dinner that will allow us to stay healthy and happy.
Oh, thank you for sharing that, because that's what this series is focusing so much on, is that, and going back to that word that you said, just with a little preparation, you
Yes.
save yourself a lot of time, and you're able to nourish your family and not like be super stressed out, even though you've come home after a long day,
Yes.
and are, wanting to just kind of chill out, relax yourself, but you've got all of these things prepared and ready to go so that you can put something together easy. Those, thank you for sharing those. And I hope everyone was taking really good notes, because she just shared some amazing tips on how you can do that in your own home. And Maru, as we leave, I would love for you to share what your generous, amazing gift is that you have to help people who maybe are at the starting blocks and don't just need a little bit of guidance into getting started. What tell us about your what you have to help them get started.
So yeah, I want to share with each one of you because of how much I saw in working with clients for so many years. I saw that I have the right programs, the right products to help them get from not feeling their best to feeling and looking their best. But I saw that getting into the kitchen was something that's not very natural for many people. And so I wanted to help them, get started and not feel intimidated. So I created these online cooking classes where I get in the kitchen and people get in their own kitchens or in their computer if they don't want to cook at the same time that I do. And they follow me either by cooking or just by watching me in preparing, a variety of dishes, and then that they can then combine in different ways during the week to feed the whole family. And so we talk a lot about, what we're using, the why we're using it, and then how to repurpose everything. Because I'm all about, I guess one more tip I'll tell you, what I told you I cook every day, I always make sure I do double, because that way I will repeat that tomorrow. I'm always doing leftovers mixes, sometimes from here, from there, and because they're all like nutrient dense, it doesn't matter. I just see what's like appetizing at the moment, and I combine some of the leftovers, and that way one cooking gives me like 3 days of eating, right?
Exactly.
And so my cooking classes, they're called healthy eating that feels like cheating. So we go through different things. Right now we started, and the first few classes are focused on healthy Mexican food. What a surprise, right? Because I just feel it's so good. I just wanted people to know, how to do it and how to incorporate it more often into their lives. And then after that, we're going to follow up with other things. For example, healthy food for kids or food for the go. I have a lot of people that follow me or work with me that are busy, travelers or executives, or, so I want to give them a lot more tools for that. And then for all of us who still want to look good, feel good, but love to eat. I do like to eat. I want to do a lot of healthy treats. What are some of the healthy treats that you can treat yourself that will make you feel good at the time off and after? And so anyway, so it's four classes at a time, and there's so much fun. We had so much fun. We started last week. You can still join anytime, and you'll get access to the videos, and then you can start on the live ones whenever you join. And I would love to cook with you. So I hope all of you can join me.
Well, thank you. That I can't wait to check them out myself. And for all of you, the link is in your email on how you can access these amazing classes from Maru. And as we close, Maru, I just want to thank you for inspiring us today to eat healthier, to get fitter, and to feel happier. That is one of the things that everything you've talked about can create and result in someone's life. So thank you again for being on the show.
Thank you. And I just want to close by obviously thanking all of you who took the time and who have the interest of doing something to feel and, live better for yourself and your family. And like, I really want to thank Shandi for bringing up all these resources so that we can empower you. And remember, food always comes first.
Thank you so much. And I'm sorry that we're out of time, because I would just love to continue, but thank you for everything that you have added to this series, Maru.
It is my pleasure. I look forward to continue supporting your cause.
Well, thank you. And we'll see everyone back tomorrow. Thanks for joining in. Bye-bye.